Good morning. We will begin our service with the ringing of the temple bell. At this time, please silence your cell phones and listen quietly as the sounding of the kancho is an invitation to settle our hearts and minds as we prepare to receive the Dharma. Thank you.
Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Aloha, and thank you for joining us today at today's Eshinni and Kakushinni Day service, either in person or virtually via Zoom. On this day, we honor Eshinni-sama, the wife of Shinran Shonin and the founder of the Jodo Shinshu Honganji tradition, and her dedication to Shinran, and also their youngest daughter, Kakushinni-sama, who was Shinran's caregiver in his later years and who, 10 years after Shinran's passing, established a memorial hall for his remains. A resolution to establish Eshinni Day was adopted at the 1978 World Buddhist Women's Convention in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Later, at the 8th World Buddhist Women's Convention, a resolution was to promote world peace and to designate Eshinni Day as Peace Day was adopted. Then in 2002, the World BWA passed a resolution to similarly honor Kakushinni-sama. Without the contribution of these extraordinary women, the Jodo Shinshu Honganji tradition would not exist. The BWA continues the tradition of women playing a major role in the Honganji temples around the world and in our communities by sponsoring this service annually. I am Elaine Nakagawa. I will be serving as your MC. Assisting at the temple with technical support are Zoom crew members Alan Matsumoto, Lynn Katayama, and Joey Gusman. Corinne Chang is our organist. Let us start the service with the offering of flowers by Hetty Cascuela Gray and Jack Nunberg. Offering of lights will be done by Mimi Bergstrom and Jules Dutoit. Please rise and let us chant the Vandana and Tisarana. Please chant the Pali and the English parts together with Reverend Blaine. Those of you on Zoom, be sure you have muted your mics.
Namanda, Butsunamanda, 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 Butsunamanda.
Please remain standing for an aspiration which will be shared by Reverend Blaine.
Please join me in Gasho. We gather this morning as friends in the Dharma, as fellow travelers along the journey of life. Today, as we honor Eshinni and Kakushinni, the wife and daughter of Shinran Shonin, we reflect on their sincere devotion to the Nembutsu path and how, through their efforts, we are able to receive the gift of Shinran's profound teaching. May we be inspired by the spirit of Jishin Kyoningshin, of securing one's own entrusting heart to great compassion and guiding others to the same path, as the way to respond to our indebtedness to the Buddha. We also offer our thoughts of loving kindness to the people of Ukraine as they seek liberation from oppression and struggle to achieve a just and lasting peace. We stand in solidarity with all who reject tyranny at home and abroad, always seeking the good and wholesome in our troubled world. Let us endeavor to listen to the Buddha Dharma with not just our ears, but with our entire being, always striving to embody the Buddha's path of peace in our thoughts, through our words, and by our actions. May we always take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows us the way in this life, the Dharma, the way of understanding and love, and the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Entrusting the dynamic working of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion, we call the honored name of Amida, the Buddha of infinite light and life, in gratitude, joy, and awareness. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda.
Please be seated. It is now time for offering of incense. We invite all Sangha members in attendance to please come up and offer incense if you wish, starting with the front rows and moving towards the back. Please use both incense burners. Let us observe a moment of silent meditation.
Namandab, 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 namandab.
Reverend Blaine will now lead us in chanting the sutra, Gasho to Amida. Words can be found in the laminated handouts and on the screen.
Composed by the Reverend Kenru Suji, Gasho Tomida is a hymn that praises the Buddha of infinite light and life and celebrates the activity of great compassion which sustains our lives. This hymn reminds us that we should humbly approach life with our palms pressed together in reverence, gratitude, and joy. We chant these words so that we may hear the Dharma and awaken to the virtues of the Buddha. May our voices together express our profound gratitude and appreciation. Namo Amida Butsu. I recite Namandab, 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 namandab.
Please rise for the singing of the Gatha, Living Gratefully. Words can be found in the handouts and on the screen. You may be seated. Today, we are honored to have as our guest speaker, Mrs. Yoshiko Umitani. Mrs. Yoshiko Umitani was born and raised in Okazaki City, Aichi Prefecture, Japan. Her family has cared for the temple called Honshu-ji. Her father was the 18th generation Jushoku, the head minister of the temple since her father worked in the ritual division at the Honzan in Kyoto. She was raised there until she was 7 years old. She graduated from Honganji Central Preschool and then returned to Okazaki. She later attended Kyoto Sangyo University and earned a bachelor's degree in English and International Relations. She then attended Nagoya University, where she received a master's degree in International Development. Additionally, she completed a 3-year correspondence course in Shin Buddhism in Chuyo Bukkyo Gakuin, Central Buddhist Institute in Kyoto. She came to Hawaii in 2003 to marry Reverend Toshiyuki Umitani. She taught Japanese at the Makao Honganji Japanese School for 6 years. Since 2011, she has been working at the Hompa Honganji Mission of Hawaii State Headquarters as an office staff member in charge of the bookstore. Currently, she is serving as honorary president of the Hawaii Federation BWA and as the president of the Minister's Spouses Association as the bishop's spouse. Bishop Toshiyuki Umitani and Mrs. Yoshiko Umitani have 2 daughters, Naho, 20, who is a junior at a college in Seattle, and Riho, 17, who is a senior at the Pacific Buddhist Academy High School. Welcome, Mrs. Umitani.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Reverend Higa, President Linda, and Kona Honganji members for inviting me to speak at your Eshinni and Kakushinni Day service. I came to Hawaii in 2003 to marry my husband. At that time, my husband was a newly assigned minister at the Hawaii Betsu Inn, so we lived in the minister's residence at the Hawaii Betsu Inn. However, the next year, my husband was transferred to Kailua Honganji, which is now called Windward Buddhist Temple. It was during our time in Kailua that our first daughter, Naho, was born. After that, we were transferred to Makawao Honganji on Maui, where our second daughter, Riho, was born. After enjoying life in the countryside of the highlands on Maui in 2011, my husband became the executive assistant to the Bishop Eric Matsumoto, and we returned to Honolulu, Hawaii, with a family of 4. Then, in 2018, my husband became the resident minister of Moiloli Honganji. After living there for 5 years, my husband became the bishop, and now I live in the Hawaii Betsu Inn property again. Although I have never lived on the Big Island, I know the Big Island members are very active in the Honpa Honganji mission of Hawaii. I know some active members like Nancy Shimamoto and Raymond Takiue at Moilili Honganji, who originally came from Kona Honganji. Yeah, today, Raymond mom come to the, and of course, former Bishop Eric Matsumoto from Kona Honganji and brother Alan King today. Thank you. As you probably know, Lady Eshinni is the wife of our founder, Shinran Shonin. Shinran Shonin is recognized as the first Buddhist minister to announce his marriage officially. This is why we honor Lady Eshinni as his official spouse, along with their daughter, Lady Kakushinni. Lady Kakushinni became more well-known when 10 letters she wrote to her youngest daughter, Lady Kakushinni, were discovered in Storehouse Honzan. How many years ago? Not so many years ago, 15. Lady Kakushinni donated her husband's land to build Shinran Shonin's grave. Since then, her descendants have served as the Monshu. So the official marriage of Shinran Shonin and Lady Eshinni gave birth to a new way of spreading Buddhism. The family rejoiced in the same teachings and passed them on to the next generation. Today, I would like to share some memories of my father, who passed away in 2020, and the member of Hawaii who enjoyed the Nembutsu, as well as my thought through these connections. My father was the third son of a family of 5 siblings at Honshuji Temple in Okazaki City, Aichi Prefecture. In Japanese temple, it is customary for the eldest son to be raised with the expectation of succeeding as the temple's head minister. But since my father was the third son, he was not raised to take over the temple. Instead, he grew up spoiled by his mother as the youngest child. His older brother, the second son, went to university in Nagoya and chose to become a high school teacher. However, my father had an interest in Buddhism from a young age and decided to study at Ryukoku University in Kyoto, majoring in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism studies. It seems that he had desired to live as a Honganji minister, even during his time at university. He once told me that since the family temple would be passed down to the eldest brother, he was thinking about how he could live as a minister, and becoming an overseas minister, kaikyoshi, was one option he considered. Ultimately, because my uncle, the eldest brother, and his wife were unable to have children, my father, who was 15 years younger than my uncle, took over the family temple since my grandparents hoped so. When I was a child, my uncle was a head minister, Jushoku, and my father was a vice head minister, Fukujushoku. Then, when I was in university, the leadership of the temple changed, and my father became the head minister, while my uncle retired and became the former head minister. The two brothers managed the temple together. There were differences in their approaches. My uncle, who had majored in economics at university, seemed to have an interest in the business side of running the temple, while my father was more focused on the Dharma teaching. After my father became the head minister, he would say, the most important job of a head minister is to invite wonderful Dharma teachers to our temple, so that our temple members can hear the essence of the Buddha's teaching. He invited prominent and capable teachers, such as Professor Reverend Akira Omine, who was the director of the Institute of Buddhism Studies, Reverend Jitsen Kakehashi, the highest ranked Kangaku scholar of Honganji Buddhist teaching, and Reverend Masahiro Asada, who now serve as the head of the Kangaku department. These ministers were busy, and it wasn't easy to arrange their schedules and the special olé that were needed. But my father believed that the most important thing was to invest in these Dharma opportunities. After I graduated from university and before I got married, I lived with my parents. During the temple Dharma services, I had the opportunity to listen to the talks of these guest speakers. At the time, I was not well versed in Buddhism, and some of its teachings were difficult to understand. However, even though the teachings were challenging, there was something deeply moving about them. Looking back now, I realize these were precious opportunities for me to receive the Dharma, thanks to my father. My father also seemed to have strong interest in how people outside of Japan appreciated the teaching of Jodo Shinshu, and he interacted with those who participated the faith abroad. When I was a child, my father worked at Honzan in Kyoto, and we lived in the staff housing. It was more than 40 years ago, but I remember playing with Reverend Jerome Ducour, who is still a center figure in the European Jodo Shinshu Sangha today. Whenever Reverend Doctor visited Japan, he would often contact my father, and my father would support him in any way he could during his stay. Yeah, he contacted Honzan people for him or something like that. Yeah. As far as I can remember, my father also invited Professor Taitetsu Unno, who beautifully translated Tannisho, a famous book written by one of Shinran Shonin's disciples, recording Shinran's word, into English. Professor Unno, who was also professor at Smith College, and his wife Alice were invited by my father as guest speaker for a Dharma talk or workshop at the Mikoa Betsuin, while my father was serving there as Rinban. Yeah, it's small Betsuin, so he can take care both home temple and Betsuin. Additionally, I remember meeting Lieutenant Sonam Wandi, currently the head of the Nepal Overseas Mission Office, Kathmandu, Honganji. While he was studying at the Central Buddhist Institute, Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin, my father invited him to Honshuji Temple, and I had the opportunity to talk with him as well. At that time, I never imagined that after moving to Hawaii, I would end up selling Tanisho, a Shin Buddhist classic, translated by Professor Taitetsu Uno at the bookstore of the Hawaii Kyodan. Nor did I expect to attend a lecture by Reverend Sonam Wandi during the BSc summer session. Since my mother was good at English, my parents actively engaged with members of overseas Jodo Shinshu Sangha. Now that I found myself involved in the Jodo Shinshu movement overseas, I look back and admire how my father was able to connect with so many people from abroad while living in a local temple in Japan. I believe this was due to his passion for the Buddha Dharma and his strong desire to understand how people outside Japan appreciated the teaching of Jodo Shinshu. My first visit to Hawaii and Hawaii Betsin was with my father and sister to see my father's university classmate and friend, Reverend Shoji Matsumoto, who was then serving as associate minister at Hawaii Betsin in 2002. Reverend Shoji Matsumoto is also Conan, minister. However, even before that, I had encountered someone connected to the Honpa Honganji mission of Hawaii at my family's temple, Honshuji. That person was the late Miss Ruth Tabler, a member of Hawaii Betsin, who had also received Tokudo ordination. She worked on book editing at BSc, Buddhist Study Center, and authored books, including one about Lady Eshinni, the monk's wife, a novel about Eshinni. I heard that Miss Tabler was deeply involved in writing and editing, A Grateful Past, A Promising Future, which was published 35 years ago to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Honpa Honganji mission of Hawaii. I believe my father met Miss Tabler during his participation in the European Shin Buddhist Conference. He later invited her to Honshuji to deliver Dharma talks, which is when I met her the first time. I was curious about why an intellectual Caucasian lady had become drawn to and devoted to the teaching of Jodo Shinshu. At that time, I was still a high school student, and living in a rural area of Japan meant that I rarely had the opportunity to converse with Caucasian individuals. Naturally, I felt nervous. However, Miss Ruth Tabler kindly spoke to me warmly and cheerfully. She even complimented my outfit and the accessories I was wearing. Nearly 10 years later, when my father, sister, and I visited Hawaii and Hawaii Betsin for the first time, Miss Tabler warmly welcomed us. She invited us to her home and took us out to eat at a restaurant. During that visit, we had the opportunity to attend the Sunday service at Hawaii Betsin. I still vividly remember seeing Miss Tabler sitting near front alongside Dr. Bloom as they listened intently to the minister's Dharma talk. The image of her sitting there, completely absorbed in the sermon, left a lasting impression on me. When my husband and I got engaged, about 3 months before our wedding, I was still living at my family's home in Japan. Around that time, my husband had his first opportunity to deliver the English Dharma talk at the 10 a.m. service on Sunday at Hawaii Betsi. Miss Tabler listened attentively to his talk and the next day sent me a card via international mail. On the card, she wrote, "Dear Yoshiko, I simply had to write and tell you how impressed I was by your fiance's first English Dharma talk at Betsin's 10 a.m. yesterday. He spoke so clearly and easily, and his message touched us all. What an asset you two will be for Hawaii Kyodan. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in October." Receiving and reading that card in Japan was a pleasant surprise and a joyful moment I still cherish. At the time, I was feeling anxious about getting married and relocating overseas, so her kind words offered me significant encouragement and reassurance. By then, Miss Tabla had already established herself as an important figure within the Hawaii Kyodan, the Honganji Sangha, and the broader Hawaii community. Yet, despite her prominent position, she showed genuine sincerity in listening to a young minister's Dharma talk. Moreover, the fact that she took the time to send a card to me, a newcomer who knew nothing about Hawaii at the time, was undoubtedly a reflection of her kind of soulful nature. More than that, I believe it also demonstrated how deeply she valued the Buddha Dharma and its propagation in Hawaii. When I got married and moved to Hawaii, Miss Tabla's health had already declined significantly due to illness, and she passed away about 6 months later. Hearing that her condition had worsened, my husband and I visited her at the hospital. When we arrived, she was resting in bed, so I wasn't sure if she could hear us. Still, I leaned close to her ear and softly said, "Miss Tablo, we've come to visit you." Then we quietly left the room. I believe it was the next day when Hawaii Betsi member Miss Koni Fukumoto called to inform me that Miss Tabla had passed away. Afterward, my husband and I attended her funeral service, which was held at Hawaii Betsi. Although my interaction with Miss Tabla was brief, she was a person who opened the door for my connection to the Hawaii Kyodan. Since then, I have taken an interest in the books she wrote and the contributions she made to Hawaii Kyodan. She left behind numerous lasting legacies within both the Hawaii Kyodan and the broader Hawaii community. In Japan, they have long revered lay followers known as myokoni, individuals deeply devoted to the Dharma. Many of them expressed their spiritual insights through haiku and poetry. However, it seems less common in Japan for lay people to actively and consciously share the Dharma beyond their personal circles. Of course, Miss Tabla's talent for writing and her ability to engage with society were significant factors in her achievement. Yet to me, it felt as though she was presenting a new way of being a Jodo Shinshu follower, one that was both inspiring and refreshing. About a year and a half ago, My husband was appointed as the bishop of the Honpa Honganji Mission of Hawaii. During a celebration at the Sheraton Hotel to honor his appointment, Miss Lois Ota, a member of the Moilele Honganji who helped organize the event, asked him to select the theme to represent his term as bishop. After several days of thoughtful consideration, my husband chose the theme Koko Shogun. According to the Jodo Shinshu dictionary, Koko Shogun refers to how the fragrance and light of Amida Buddha's wisdom beautifully adorn the lives of those who recite Nembutsu. This phrase is also found in Jodo Wasan, collection of hymns composed by Shinran Shonin. 善公人のその身には好機あるがごとくなり、これをすなわち名付けて、高校将軍と申すなる。Such beings are like people who, imbued with incense, bear its fragrance of their bodies. They may be called those adorned with the fragrance of light. I appreciate the term Zenkonin, which literally means a person dyed with fragrance, colored with fragrance. The Jodo Shinshu dictionary defines Zenkonin as a person who is imbued with the fragrance of the Buddha's wisdom, referring to practitioner of the Nembutsu. In my interpretation, those who regularly attend the service, like you, gradually become imbued with the fragrance of the incense burned during the service. They were burned during the service. At the same time, they receive the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha through the minister's Dharma talk. This repetition and accumulation over time lead to change in their attitude and action, allowing their lives to be beautifully adorned with the wisdom and light bestowed by Amida Buddha. Becoming truly immersed in the fragrance of incense is not an instant process. It requires consistent practice, attending service daily or weekly, actively participating in the service at the beautiful adorned Hondo main hall, and listening attentively to the Dharma talks. Through this practice, the teachings of the Buddha gradually permeate both the body and heart. I believe this embodies the essence of what Zenkonin represents. Both my father and Miss Tabla maintained a sincere attitude toward listening to the Dharma throughout their lives, receiving the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. They live with joy within the Buddha's light. They dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to helping others realize this joy, striving to expand the Dharma connection whatever ways they could within their respective roles. As I reflect on their lives, I feel that their aspiration and dedication have guided me to where I am today, living a life of joy in the Nembutsu here in Hawaii. Following the example of those who came before me, I too hope to attend Sunday service regularly, listen to the Dharma talk, and do my best to share the Dharma connections in my way. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with you today. I want to conclude with Gasho. Namo Amitabha, Namandabha, Namandabha, Namandabha.
Thank you for your Dharma message, Mrs. Umitani. Susan Takiwe will lead us in unison reading of the BWA Pledge. Words can be found in the handout and on the screen. Please join her in reciting the words out loud.
Buddhist Women's Pledge. Guided by Shinran Shonin's teachings, we share Amida Buddha's heartfelt wish for the happiness of all beings. We cherish listening deeply to the Dharma and endeavor to realize a world in which all are equally affirmed and valued. We live each moment within the embrace of Amida Buddha's infinite wisdom and compassion, grateful for all we receive. We welcome all, with aloha, to come as they are to the circle of Namu Amida Butsu. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We will now have the offertory presentation. Mahalo, everyone, for your generosity. Please stand as we conclude this service with the singing of the Gatha Nembutsu.
Namandab, 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 namandab. Namandab, namandab.
You may be seated. This concludes today's service in honor of Eshinni and Sama and Kakushinni Sama. Here are some announcements. Upcoming services and events. This Saturday, March the 8th, the Konohonganji will be a host site for an online workshop entitled The Power of Compassion, conducted by Trinidad Hunt, who will present live at the Hompahonganji Hawaii Betsu Inn. The workshop will start at 9 a.m. and end at 3 o'clock p.m. Some of you may have attended previous workshops conducted by Trinidad Hunt and know how wonderful a presenter she is. Please see Reverend Blaine for registration if you would like to attend. Next Sunday, March the 9th, the Hawaii Island chapter of the Hawaii Association of International Buddhists, or HABE, will sponsor the 13th annual Buddha Day celebration at 9:30 a.m. here at the Konohonganji Temple. This year's featured speaker will be Reverend Paul Ananda Norman, Executive Director of the Neighborhood Place of Puna, and Minister of Amida Hawaii Community. Following the service, refreshments will be served in the social hall. Entertainment will be provided by the musical group Special Guest, and there will be fun intergenerational activities which we hope you will all participate in. Donations of adult diapers as well as monetary donations for the neighborhood place of Puna will be gratefully accepted. Please plan to join us and remember that the service will start a half hour earlier at 9:30 a.m. Then Sunday on March 16th, we will observe Spring Ohigan service at 10 a.m. Guest speaker will be Reverend Kerry Kiyohara of Maka'au Honganji on Maui. Members of the Kamuela Honganji mission will also join us for the service and fellowships afterwards. Sunday, March 23rd, regular Dharma's family service will be held at 10 a.m. Minister's assistant, Ms. Linda Nagai, will share a Dharma message. On the 30th, regular Dharma family service will be held at 10 a.m. and Reverend Blaine will share a Dharma message. BWA will be having our manju sale for Hana Matsuri this year. Please place your manju order. The order deadline is March 21st, and pickup will be at our Hana Matsuri service on April 13th. The order can be found in the latest Jiho. Reminder that the Hawaii Island United BWA scholarship deadline is April the 5th, and the Kona Honganji BWA scholarship deadline is April the 15th. Are there any other announcements?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Elaine. Just want to thank everybody for being here. Also, just a reminder for the Hey Buddha Day next week, if you have flowers, we appreciate donations of flowers and greens for decorating the Hanamido. And we'll be accepting the donations of flowers and greens on Saturday, March 8th, up until 5 p.m. So buckets will be placed by the kancho on the side of the conference room, so please drop off flowers that day. Also, I just want to thank Yoshiko-san for joining us today, and welcome back to Kona after all these years. So, one interesting note, right? So Yoshiko's family, right, has a direct connection and relationship to Renyo. The temple was founded by Renyo, I believe, right? And so the family has a direct connection to Renyo Shonin, so the 8th abbot, who is enshrined here on the left side of the altar. So quite special, that relationship, and thank you to yourself and to Bishop for being such wonderful leaders for our Honganji. So thank you for joining us. So, oh, and then also, but thank you, welcome to Yoshiko. So, and then, last weekend, we had the Hawaii Island Gatha Fest, the 51st annual Gatha Fest. And so many of us went over to Puna Honganji that hosted, and we had a wonderful time, fellowship, singing, and enjoying the time with other Honganji members across the island. And so because many of you didn't get to go, we want to share with you our performance from the Gatha Fest. And so this is our performance. So the song was, the song APT. I think the young people know APT. But it's a modern song which was adapted by our wordsmith Darren Katayama. And so this is the song. So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And so you don't miss out next year, and we will be hosting the Gatha Fest here at Konohonganji. So I hope to see everybody participating and singing with us next year. So
Thank you. Those of you on Zoom, click on the Leave Meeting button when you are ready to leave. Those of you here in person, refreshments will be served in the social hall. A big mahalo to Molly Nakano, Hedy Cascoela Bray, Linda Nagai, Glenda Yamagata, Mildred Kaneko, and anyone else who brought goodies to share. Thank you for joining us. Please stay safe, and we hope to see you at next Sunday at the Habe Buddha Day service. Remember, it starts at 9:30 a.m., so please come a half an hour earlier.